Hello and welcome to the Greenway Outdoors podcast. My name's Kyle.
I'm AJ.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Ryan.
And we are joined by Mason Payer of Nosler. He's the head marketing guy over there. We know him well. And actually, you will get to see Mason on an episode of the History Channel this year when we went to New Mexico to pronghorn hunt. So, Mason, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, happy to be here. Always fun.
Is your wife worried about the ladies chasing you once you're on History Channel? Or what's the situation at home?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a problem my whole life, but I've got it.
Hey, you just got back from a trip that I desperately want to go on because I did an ancestry report, which we've talked about on the podcast before, and it was sketch enough to find that out, but it was Germany, and you literally just got back from there, and I've wanted to go to Germany my whole life.
He just got back from Africa.
Oh, did I say Africa?
No, you said Germany, but he just got back from Africa, and you said you got an ancestry report. So I thought you were
I did too. I was like, wait
No.
I don't remember
He
this.
just got back. Well, he went to Africa months ago. Listen, you guys don't text with him like I do, so you don't know. Okay, he just got back from Germany, and he went to Iceland with his wife, and he wore that exact hat in Iceland.
Oh, nice.
Germany and Iceland?
Yeah, he did like a double trip. So,
All right.
tell how was it?
It was awesome. Yeah, so I went to Germany for the IWA show. It's kind of like the SHOT Show of Europe. So it's a show we go to and exhibit at every year. So, yeah, decided to go. My wife wanted to tag along this year, so we went a little bit early and spent 3 days in Iceland on the way, which was awesome. So highly recommend both destinations.
Iceland would be tight.
You've got two sons. Was it the inmates running the prison, or did someone stay with them?
Pretty much. Like, Grandma was allegedly in charge, but I don't know. We're still finding, evidence of shenanigans. So
There's more candy wrappers than floor when they got back.
He found 24 empty Coke bottles, so he doesn't know. So the show itself in Germany, the people that go there, is it like you said? It's like SHOT Show of Germany. Are people there because they're hunters, or are they coming because you like shooting sports, or like what is the demographic of like the people walking around?
Yeah, so it's people from all over the world, primarily from Europe, but it's an industry show similar to SHOT. So I think it's open to consumers maybe like the last day, but it's primarily people in the industry. So it's mostly like business to business, but it's pretty cool because it's got a lot of hunting stuff. There's also like lots of like dog gear, like leashes and collars and dog training stuff, like because hunting with dogs in Europe is really big. And then like there's a whole hall of knives, lots of guns. There's one whole airsoft hall, which is kind of funny, like just different because so many of those countries, like it's really difficult to own guns, but you can buy like airsoft guns. So it's pretty neat. It's just a broad mix of people from all over the world and all different kinds of products, and all hunting and shooting related, but definitely some different stuff that you don't see at any shows here.
How much of the room spoke English?
Oh, almost everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, just pretty much everyone speaks English. It's surprising that English is seems to be like the universal language of the show.
Yeah.
It's very rare. There's a few people that don't speak any. We have German speakers in our booth. We got sales reps that live over there and speak German. So, I mean, there wasn't anyone we couldn't communicate with. So it's pretty cool.
That is neat.
Fun fact, English is a universal language for aviation. You have to be able to speak English if you want to be a pilot.
We get it. You're a pilot.
We get it. Yeah. That's awesome. Part of the whole point of this episode here is to talk to Mason about some of his Africa experiences. So we went to the SCI convention that I spoke at a couple weeks ago, and we ended up meeting a bunch of different people about that were great reps for people that hunt in Africa, like they're guides, right? And what's neat about SCI, and I didn't know this until this experience, was like everyone at this show was going to the next SCI convention and the next one and the next one and the next, as they're all around the state, and everybody kind of knew each other. And in order to be an SCI certified guide, you have to go like through all these qualifications and stuff, and they really vet you, which is awesome because if you were someone like us who's never been to Africa before, and I don't know anyone from Adam there, we could be taken advantage of pretty easily.
Yeah.
You know, and apparently the people that I talked to were like, you have to watch it. Like, you can get conned and tricked really easy in South Africa.
Yeah.
Like, it can happen to just about anybody.
Especially us.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No
We're a
doubt.
magnet for it. But anyhow, so getting to talk to these people about the different opportunities, I have been talking to Mason to be our guardian, legal guardian, for Africa trips in general, because he has so much experience there. He's taken people from his company there and everything like that. I will say this, Mason, you'll be proud with a lot of the negotiations and the conversations and stuff that we had. I think the trip will cost somewhere about a third of what you were anticipating, just based on the relationships we built because of the show. So we got that going for us so far. But the vast array of different species that you can actually hunt there was insane. We've talked about ostrich hunting before. I don't think I can do it, but
I'd quite call that a hunt.
yeah, it's like they like run up beside them with trucks and give them a wallop on the old noggin.
It's just a harvest.
Yeah, it's just a harvest. It's kind of like, yeah.
It's a cruel anger management.
yeah. It's like the mailbox thing when you're
I
a
was
kid.
waiting for it.
Yeah, there it is. But anyhow, in talking to them, it got me pumped about Africa. And because Mason is someone that we actually trust that has a bunch of experience there, I got to talking to him on the phone. And I was like, some of these stories, Mason, we got to talk about these in the podcast. Because I am guessing that a lot of the people that listen to our show always have Africa in the back of their mind as like that once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You know what I mean? As something that they'd like to do one day. But in talking to people, it becomes more affordable, especially if you go through like an SCI program or something like that. So look into SCI and their outfitters and stuff. But also, I just can't believe some of the stories and the culture shock situations that people have. And the idea behind us wanting to go to Africa is because we kind of want to create episodes about what the true experience is like. So the people that go, there's a bag program that SCI puts on where they stuff this bag full of stuff that you take to give to kids and schools and things like that while you're there, to give back to the different communities. And a lot of the different pieces of information that you learn about how by hunting this, you're feeding these people. And if you didn't hunt, then these species wouldn't exist. And all that, I really want to dive into the conservation stories that are there, but having never set foot there. Like here when we hunt whitetail deer, man, I'll go on for 2 days about it. Turkey, same thing. Elk, same thing. But there, it's like, unless you're there and know, you don't really know. And it is different than the North American model as they're trying to shape into that. And like I said, some of the stories Mason was telling me, I'm like, people need to hear this to kind of inspire them the same way. So without further ado, I'd like to open with the hippo story.
Dive right into it, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, well, first of all, I have been to Africa 3 times. There's certainly many more people that are far more experienced than I. So I know a little bit. I know a little more than someone who's never been. But I'm not an expert by any means.
Humble.
But yeah, so hippo story in 2015, was fortunate enough to go on a hunt in we were in Namibia, and so we were actually up in the northeastern part, little part called the Caprivi Strip. So it's this real, if you look at the map of Namibia, there's this little kind of tongue of land sticking out across there, and so we were actually hunting in a national park, and so they have part of the way they fund their parks is by issuing permits, to a small number of permits to hunters who have that area in their territory. And so went hunting there for a whole variety of different game species, and that was really a exciting adventure. I mean, we're in a tent camp, right on the river at night. You can hear hippos in the river, you can hear buffalo walking through the grass, going down to water, like right outside the tent. And so it's truly like definitely the adventure of a lifetime. So awesome experience. But one of the animals we were hunting was hippo, and so yeah, killed a big hippo bull. And
Did you know it was a bull when you shot it?
I didn't. My PH did. Yeah. So I mean, it's very much over there. Like the first rule is always listen to your PH, your professional hunter, and always do what they say. And that's kind of the biggest one of the biggest challenges for him was so the bull was in this pod of cows. So it was bull and cows. And so, his job was to figure out, okay, which one was the bull, and they kept going up and down in and out of the water. And so every time they'd come back out, he'd have to figure out again, like exactly which one was the bull, and so it was like, on the gun, off the gun, on the gun, off the gun, getting ready, like get ready. Okay, wait, like, get ready. So it was kind of like nerve wracking.
What caliber were you using?
I used a 416 Rigby.
I thought you were going to say 308 again.
Yeah, no, definitely not a 308 for this job. So no, 416 Rigby with a 400 grain partition. So it definitely did the job. But yeah, so killed a bull, and when they recovered, took 2 land cruisers to drag him up on the beach. And that was, all they could do to get him up there. And so, I mean, we're talking about like a couple tons worth of meat. And so then,
where do you aim?
The neck. So you shoot them in the head when they're in the water like that. And so you aim between the eye and the ear. So like if they're like a profile, like you kind of draw an imaginary line from the eye to the ear, and you want to like break that line. And that's a brain shot.
Okay.
So kind of depends which way they're facing, but that's kind of typically the shot you want to take. And so
you shoot them in the water. What is someone getting in the water for the retrieval?
So that's the sketchy part. But so yes to no, kind of just depends on what, where they're at, what kind of body of water they're, whether they're in a river or a pond or whatnot. Where we were at, it was, kind of the end of the dry season. So it was this big pond that normally, water be flowing in and out of, but it was just this kind of static pond there. And so what happens is you shoot them and they sink. Then you wait.
They kind of look like the folk that would float.
Yeah.
Well, they do, but not right away. So they do. So they
Day
sink, and then when they
3.
die. No, it happens. It's about an hour. So they're a ruminant like a cow, and so they eat lots of grass, and so they've got all this grass in their stomach just fermenting, and so that creates gas, and as that gas expands, eventually like it inflates their stomach, and then they float.
Like Jeffrey with Brussels sprouts.
Like anyone with Brussels sprouts.
You need to let that go.
At least I don't fling my poop with a little tail like hippos and you do.
That was one time.
Oh yeah.
One time. And you wouldn't have known if you didn't have the flashlight going. Anyhow, sorry, friend. Mason.
So if you just imagine if Jeffrey, couldn't release, his broccoli, then he would start to swell.
Yeah.
So they
float.
So they get full of gas, and then they float. So then once they float, then they go out in a boat, tie a rope around their foot, and then tow them with the boat over to the side. Or if it's in a river, sometimes the unlucky guy that draws the short sticks got to walk out there, and tie the rope around him.
Is he fighting other hippos?
Hold on. Let's stop there for a second. I got a couple points. Point 1 is, if you didn't like a guy, you run out and poke him so that he lets the air out and he sinks again. Take that. Number 2, hippos kill more people than any other animal, and you have to go get in the water where there was at least one to tie it off to get. Dude, that's a short stick. That's a tiny little stick. That's because this would be huge and this would be small. But the other thing is, for that hour, you got to be like, you sure you get him?
Please,
you know what I mean? Like, come on.
Any second.
Please float. You sure you got him?
Well, and don't forget about the Crocs too.
Oh.
So it's not just hippos in the water.
Yeah, those shoes are everywhere. They have them in Africa now too. Everyone wears them. I get it.
So that's kind of the nerve-wracking part. So when
Mason hangs up from that. Sorry, Mason. Continue.
Waiting for him to float, you're like second guessing yourself. You're like,
whole time.
Did I? And so what happens is, like, usually you give it like an hour, and then that happened with mine. Was we weren't too far from where our camp was, so we shot him, and we're like, okay, we got to give him time to float. So you go back to camp, have lunch, come back, and we're looking at the pond, and it's just like flat and still. There's nothing. I'm like,
no.
So then you start doubting yourself, second guessing yourself. And I was like, no, the shot felt good. And actually a buddy filmed it, just, not for TV or anything. We were just filming it for fun for ourselves. And so we watched the tape. We're like, no, it looks good. And then, so we're waiting. And then sure enough, just glass in this pond. And then looks like there's like a football over there, like floating in the water. And they're like, okay, that's him. And then slowly just rises up,
Like, let's say his head was just above the water, but you accidentally hit the water. That'd slow the bullet down a lot, right?
Well, it can skip too. Like it can either slow it down, not so much worry about slowing down, but skipping off the water.
And like going right over him then? He's like, did you hear that?
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a small target, and you want to make sure you do it right. But kind of one of the really interesting things was, okay, we get him up on the beach. And so then it's like, okay, we went to a local village and kind of like put the word out, like, hey, we need help cutting up this hippo, and like, hey, there's hippo meat. And the guys came running. Like, it was not, I remember we were just pulling into this village in the truck, and just guys are running from every direction in the village wanting to come help and to come get meat, and they're running. They've got like pillowcases, like whatever kind of bag they can find to put the meat in.
And you're just like yelling, like, get your hippo here. We got your hippo.
If you're hungry for a hunk of fat and juicy meat, eat my buddy Pumper here, because the answer's three.
They already knew that we were coming, and they were waiting. And so then they were like, getting in like arguments over who got to go, because then there was like too many guys to fit in the back of the truck, and they're trying to like hang on the side and come, everybody's wanting to come with, and they're like pushing each other off. Finally we're like, okay, we're good, we got enough guys.
The reason why they're fighting for it is because they want to make sure they get theirs for their family, right?
Yeah, they want some meat. Yeah. They're hungry, and they don't get a lot of protein in their diet, and so
we kind of take that for granted. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, try eating grits every day for 3 meals a day.
No, it's true.
Man, when they were done, there was nothing left.
Like the skin and stuff too?
The skin, the intestines, everything. Like
what did you get to keep?
So I kept
the memories.
So I kept so memories, photos. I have the skull. You can import the skulls, provided you do kind of some paperwork ahead of time. Okay. And then a big piece of leather, big piece of the hide I had like turned into leather. I've actually got a pair of hippo boots.
Ooh,
so that's pretty cool.
That's gnarly.
When you break those suckers out.
Special occasions, SCI show.
Yeah. Class reunion, something else,
That would be sweet.
What? I wonder why. Are they just gray?
You can get it dyed whatever color. It's kind of like a dark red, because kind of when they tan it, it kind of gets like bleached out, but it's got all this really cool character in it. There's all these like cracks and scars, and I mean they're like covered in scars because they fight like crazy. The bulls especially, like they're super territorial, and so yeah, they've got like scars all over them from fighting each other with their tusks.
Mainly because our audience over the last, I don't know if you've been watching our social media, but we've been getting fried daily. We are just, our engagement has gone through the roof. Like our social media engagement has probably quadrupled in the last 2 months from any time before, which is great. But we're also hated by a lot of people now. Like, cause we did a debate between me and a prominent vegan, and I kind of destroyed him. And it just created like this whole thing. But so my question is to you, is one of the questions that they would ask is, so why are we hunting hippos? What was the point of hunting hippos? Why did they hunt hippos? What is the conservation behind it?
It just kind of comes down to, it all depends on the area. You're not just getting a hippo permit for anywhere, and so it's all carefully managed by, the wildlife department of that country and then that park. And then, that's how they generate funding for their parks department, is to have, limited hunting for particular species for, those, surplus, males in the population, that they're able to, sell tags for. And then that's how they're, there's a whole economy based on that supports the anti-poaching efforts. I mean, that's what pays for that park to be there. Basically, that's what's going to pay for the guys to be out there patrolling, watching for poachers. That's what pays for just all the park staff, just all of that, is funded by hunting.
And the truth be told too, those people were clearly very eager to eat hippo, right? Like you made their day, obviously. So you donated that meat to feed the local families that needed it. If we didn't do those limited hunts, then what happened to Africa in the first place was they went in and wiped out everything. They ate everything. And imagine that many hungry people fist fighting to get into the truck with you. And you said you hadn't showered in 3 days. They were still fist fighting to get in that truck and go pick up just to get some of the meat. So imagine if there was no regulations, there was no nothing, they'd wipe them out inside of a year, which is what happened before. So to build back populations of all species, this is the management plan that comes in as hunters go in, pay probably an obscene amount of money to buy the tag. The money goes to help the park create the stability of it, protect the hippos in general, and then you're donating the meat so that people are still getting the food from the resource as it rebuilds. I mean, that's what's so special about it.
Did you get to eat any of the hippo?
We did not eat any of the hippo ourselves.
He goes, yeah, and look what happened for it. He's missing fingers because he's
they're mad at him.
Yeah. Sorry, Mason.
That was about the only thing we didn't eat. I mean, it all got eaten, just not by us. We didn't eat any of the hippo. But typically, on a hunt, you do eat a lot of the game from whatever you take.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah,
how it tasted.
Curious. They're eating the skin and the fat and the organs. Like, hey, you want a 9-year-old hippo liver? Like,
Liver.
yeah.
Probably so difficult just to get nutrients. Like they
Right.
just eat anything. It's like how people used to eat beaver tail for the nutrients.
Right.
Which is gross.
And the fat.
I tried it.
Yeah, I didn't like beaver tail at all.
No bueno.
I still think about it and just want to throw up. Yeah, it was like eating fat, like pig fat, with no flavor.
But with fibers in it, like you would think of like meat. So it's
But
fibrous, but fatty.
fibrous jello. It reminded me of eating paddlefish straight up without cooking it.
Oh,
But saying it was cooked. That's what it is.
Yeah.
If anyone's ever had paddlefish, that's what it was. And Ray cooked it over a fire.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, I'm just... The Greenway Outdoors is brought to you by Ram Trucks, built to serve. Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Your adventure starts here. Savage Arms. Better comes standard. Nosler Ammunition. World's finest bullets, ammunition, and brass. Boss Shot Shells. Superior made and American made. Carlson's Choke Tube's the only choke tube we've ever purchased. Onyx Hunt. Know where you stand.
If you want to be here, it all starts here. At Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, we have the widest selection of the quality brands you love to get you outdoors. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, our friendly, knowledgeable outfitters will help you find the right products for your next trip. Shop with confidence with our low price guarantee. Plus, club members save even more on great gear with exclusive member pricing. Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, voted America's best outdoor retailer.
For every purpose, for every path, for every soul, for every season, there's a ram.
Legends aren't born, they're created. Introducing Impulse from Savage, the all-new American-made straight-pull bolt-action rifle. Unmatched innovation, fast reloads, maximized efficiency, repeatable accuracy. Welcome to American Straight Pull. Only from Savage.
Another species that really upsets people when it comes to hunting is the giraffe. And was it the elephant? I forgot which one you had told me about. I believe it was it giraffes or elephants, the one in that park where the carrying capacity is way off.
Oh, I was talking about elephants on that. That was from our more recent trip, where we weren't hunting elephants, but we did go hunt, we went to Kruger National Park, which there's no hunting in that park. But we'd been pretty successful in the early part of our hunt. And so we still had some time on our trip, before we were going to go home. We're like, hey, we'd love to let's go over to Kruger and just check it out. And so we went there for 3 days and saw just a ton of animals, like a huge variety of game, but saw one of them, that we saw the most was elephants, which was really surprising, was just how many elephants that are there. And also on that trip to Namibia, we saw a ton of elephants there too, just because that's what that park is known for. There's quite a few there. But I think that's one of the misconceptions is a lot of people who haven't been over there or just don't know is think that there aren't elephants left in the world, you know.
I would have thought
I think that that there's very few, which is not true. Now granted, there are a lot of places where there aren't any elephants where they used to range, but there are other places where there are too many elephants. They're over their carrying capacity, and there's tens of thousands of elephants, and certainly poaching is still a huge issue, and something that has to be addressed. But in Kruger National Park right now, there's more elephants than the park can support.
That's what carrying capacity is like amount of food and habitat around to sustain a certain number of a species, and if that's called the carrying capacity. So what he's saying is that there's too many elephants for what there are resources there to sustain them.
Kruger National Park is huge. It's kind of, imagine like Yellowstone, but even bigger. But it's fenced. Well, the fences don't really mean a whole lot to an elephant because it's an elephant. It just goes where it wants. But it's a limited resource because there's human habitation, there's development, there's agricultural fields, everything right around that park. And so when the animals leave the park, they're immediately in conflict with humans who live there, and that's where they live. It's where they grow their food. And so you've got
I'll
finite,
take that.
right. Yeah. So you've got a finite area, even though it's a huge area. I mean, an elephant can range over a huge amount of land. And so, the numbers kind of vary, but you got to imagine there's probably, around, the numbers I heard were there's probably around, 7,000 or 8,000 is probably the number of elephants that park can support. And there's probably around 30,000 that live there. And so
three and a half to 4 times the carrying capacity.
Good Lord.
3.5 to 4 times the amount of elephants they should be there. So that means starvation. That means deprived of everything. And then if they escape, they're in conflict with humans, and then those people, imagine you're a farm near there, and that's how you eat every day, and they come in and wipe you out overnight.
Do they even have peanuts over there?
Yeah, and long term, it's just not sustainable because unfortunately, those elephants are going to eat themselves out of house and home, and they're going to destroy the habitat for all the animals that live in the park. There's dozens of species that live in that park, but if the elephants eat all the food, the park's not going to support anybody.
And I know that you had taught me before that the way an elephant eats, like they get to the point where they're eating bark on trees, but they're not going to like walk up to a tree and eat off of the tree. They're like, man, screw this tree. And they just knock it over, completely kill it, and then eat all the bark off it, and then move on to the next one, knock that one completely over. And that's one elephant. Imagine 3 times, 4 times the carrying capacity. Thousands of elephants doing that. That if they all did it to 2 trees a day, that'd be 60,000 trees. Like a day gone.
That's rough.
So it's like, and then you'll have all the farms around it where it's like, well, those people should be able to survive and have food too. So if the elephants get out, they just wipe out their food supply. So then those people are screwed, and they can't. It's like no one's allowed to shoot the elephants in the park, because there's no hunting there, so then all the other species are suffering because you're not managing it properly. And that's kind of the whole thing, is like when we talk about God gave us dominion over the animals, this is like a small version of it, like a petri dish, where you're looking at it like a specific chain of events. It's like right here, you can see that hunting would be the perfect management tool, right? And they're not using it. So I guess in some cases they have to go in and kill a bunch of them or something like that. You were telling me about that too?
Yeah, I was going to ask, how are they recognizing the problem at all?
I think there's probably some recognition. So previously, you know, in early, like in 70s, 80s, I think it ended in the early 90s. So they used to do population management by culling, which was basically going in and taking out whole herds to manage the population. And that
rough
kept
job.
kept it in check. That's something that they don't do anymore, just due to the kind of I don't know, I think the misconception that, you know, or just distaste for hunting in general. And so now the resource is not being managed, and all the other resources are suffering for it. I mean, we built the fence, you know, we created the park, people in general, just, created the farms, and limited the resource. So it's up to us to manage it. Like you said, it's got to be taken care of, and just leaving it to its own devices. I mean, there's going to be lots of animals die because there's nothing to eat.
Right. And then you like, people forget too. I say this all the time is people have this conception. They're like, well, nature will even itself out, that kind of thing. Like people say that, the vegan said that a lot too. And it's like, as if that's the ethical choice, is to like let that happen.
Right. It's at what cost?
Yeah. And it's like, they're like, just let it be and it'll solve itself. But it's like, what does solving itself look like?
Yeah.
Well, it's not as if.
And what if it doesn't?
It's not as if the carrying capacity of 7,000 elephants are like, okay, guys, we're just going to eat and all you other ones are going to starve and go away so we can figure out the balance. That's not how it works. Instead, all of them just don't get enough. Disease takes over and they die of starvation, slow, agonizing deaths. And you can have a population bust where you lose a ton of them or all of them at once if you're not careful. And it's like, well, that's what nature intended. It's like, no, I don't think that's what nature intended. I think what God intended was that we were supposed to manage it properly. And I think that if Jesus took a walk around that park, he'd be looking at the people in charge and saying, you guys are failing. You're not doing what you're supposed to. I put you in charge of this. This is what you do. And I think that's the reality. Yeah. And I think that the ethical thing is like we were talking about with making a well-placed shot, which is why we use Nosler ammunition, to make an ethical, quick, clean kill in order to end that suffering. But also, we hear about these people there that are starving for the food as well and feeding them. I mean, you have a resource to feed people, make people healthier, and cull the herd, and you've got a renewable resources. They're going to continue to have babies and that sort of thing. It's a renewable resource. Get it down to the appropriate numbers and then maintain that, and then do what you have to do to maintain it. But doing this is irresponsible. It's mean. It's torturous. And it's like, yeah, but it's natural because humans aren't doing it. It's like, okay, so you're so concerned about humans not intervening while they're the ones who have farms all the way around it. They've already intervened, but you're so worried about them possibly hunting and gaining something from it that you're willing to let them all suffer and starve to death. You're the monster, not me.
Yeah. That was the thing I didn't get when we were talking to that vegan guy. He was like, no, just leave them alone. It's like, you can't though. Because even if he hated that point. we all stop eating meat, then what? We still have roads, we still have towns, we've still limited their ability to access habitat that they need for reproduction, that they need for gathering food, that they need for all these things, that isn't an option anymore unless there's like some cataclysmic event that a bunch of humans go away. Like we're here now.
They would love that. The weird thing is they would love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would.
That's what's weird is when a human being starts saying that the human beings are overpopulated, it's like, well, who do you want to start getting rid of first? Because last time we heard a guy say that in like 1939, and
we should go eat a salad, Thanos.
Yeah, it's like, it's like, who do you think we should get rid of then? I really.
We vote you.
Yeah. That's where it gets interesting. But yeah, I started to go off on a little bit of a tangent there, but that's something we've been running into and been challenged on a lot lately. As far as Africa goes, for someone who's interested in it now, Mason, what would you tell them? I was like, man, if you're going to go, you got to go for these couple species, and this is the experience that if you're going to go once, this is what I recommend.
First of all, just go. Like, if you have any desire to go, then make it happen. Like, it's such an awesome experience. But be prepared. It's a cliche, but you'll want to go again. Like it's like they say, once you go, you're going to want to go again, which there's nothing wrong with that. But,
I heard it differently, but I get what you're saying. No, yeah.
But saying Africa is
giant.
huge.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the size, like if you superimpose like the U.S. over Africa, it's like the size of that continent is just ginormous. And so we say Africa thinking it can mean 100 different things. I mean, there's a ton of different countries there, tons of different experiences, and they're not all alike. And there's parts of Africa you don't want to go to. And then there's parts of Africa that you absolutely do. And they're just as safer, probably safer than a lot of places in the U.S., probably safer than where you live. So,
yeah, especially
it's,
Jeff.
I think it's not something to be afraid of. It's not this big, scary thing. There's a whole bunch of people who are set up to welcome hunters and to show you an amazing time. It is one of the most luxurious hunts you will ever be on. I mean, rarely do you go, you don't go elk hunting where you have like a shower and sleep in a bed every night and like people do your laundry for you every day. And like it's pretty nice. So I would say, look at going to, South Africa or Namibia are both kind of like the entry points, kind of the starter hunt. There's certainly other countries to go to if you want like a greater Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Mozambique, stuff like that. That's a lot more of like a real adventure. You're getting a little more deep into it there, but going to either Namibia or South Africa is really easy. Like you said, hunt with a reputable outfitter, someone who is endorsed by, someone like Safari Club or Dallas Safari Club, that has lots of references. There's tons of great people, super friendly people, just really nice. And yeah, just whatever kind of floats your boat. Kudu are great. An Impala is a classic, just African trophy that they're very common, very affordable. Just there's a ton of different amazing animals to hunt over there, and a plains game hunt is fairly reasonable. I mean, yes, it's not inexpensive, but when you compare it to the cost of going to an outfitted hunt anywhere else, it's pretty reasonable. Yeah, anyone who has any desire to go to Africa, if you think at all you want to do it, I just say go for it. Do your shopping, plan ahead. It's not something you're gonna want to jump into going next month, but give yourself a year or two ahead to plan. Talk to other people who've been, and definitely just do it.
So Mason, do you have any recommendations as far as like how to book and how to plan getting your guns actually to Africa?
Can't say enough good things about Gracie Travel. Just look them up online. Just talk to them first. Like once you get your outfitter figured out where you want to go, call Gracie. And they will help you do all of your travel, all of your paperwork for your gun permits. They make it very easy. Costs a little bit, but it's well worth the expense. Definitely cannot say enough good things about those guys. They make the trip way easier.
For people that need to do gun shopping beforehand, are there calibers that you recommend?
Take your deer hunting rifle. You don't for plains game. Load a good bullet, maybe an AccuBond partition. But take the gun that you shoot well. I think that's a mistake a lot of people make, is when they think Africa and they're thinking of like stories of like, from
375 H&H. Yep. Dangerous game. It's a different story. That's when you go to the big bore, the 375 H&H, which Nosler is sending me I got some partition 300 grain 375 H&H rounds. So if you guys want to go shooting with me, we can go shoot it at the range. It has a muzzle brake too. I just want to go shoot it at the range and be like, "What?" I remember
barriers between stalls go like poof,
yeah, just from the compression. Yeah, it's a mean bullet, but yeah, I think that for the most part you can use your deer rifle. I know that he used a 308 for his plains game hunt.
You think you're gonna get your daily showers when we go?
I better. I'm a twice a day.
He'll take daily dips. That's for sure. If there's water nearby.
Yeah.
Thanks to his pinto.
Yeah, don't pee in the water.
I think the other thing too is because you're in such a different environment and it's such a unique hunt. No matter what you're going for, that you want to know you have a gun that you know how it behaves, and you know that you shoot well with it, as opposed to trying to get a new gun and then thinking you're good with it, but having only taken it to the range once or twice.
The Greenway Outdoors is brought to you by Ram Trucks, built to serve. Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, your adventure starts here. Savage Arms, Nosler Ammunition, Bosch Shot Shells, Wilderness Athlete, fuel for the rugged, Tracker Boats, fish the finest, Eagle Fishing, designed for the savvy angler, Rufus Teague Barbecues, Snacks, and Spices, Rectech Grills, it's more than a grill, it's a way of life, Sea-Doo, make your own waves, LEM Products, motivating people to hunt, process, and prepare their own food, Quiet Cat, the leader in electronic bikes for hunting, fishing, camping, and exploring. Consistency. That's what you aim for with every practice shot. So when you're out in the field, you get that same consistency every shot. With Carlson's choke tubes, consistency is what you'll get. Our choke tubes are long-lasting, high quality, and made right here in the USA. Carlson's choke tubes, pattern tested, hunter approved. Find out more at choketube.com.
Are you anxious to get going? Knowing that the clock is ticking and time truly is the most precious commodity in the world? Then you, my friend, are in good company.
You're spending all this money going on a trip, and then people are weird about spending money on good ammo.
Yeah.
Bro, it's
Yeah.
your one thing you're shooting.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what it is.
Yeah, use Nosler. Oh, I don't want to spend that much. Spend a little more. Think for 1 second. First of all, how often you go through a box of rifle bullets? You know what I mean? Like a
few boxes could last you a long time.
I've got a box of AccuBond that once your gun's sighted in, but I've got a box of AccuBond that killed a bear, a moose, a bison, and a whitetail.
Same
and
box?
I'm not done with the box yet. You know, it's like
that's pretty cool.
And you sighted it in before each of the trips.
Yeah, I did, and it's just kind of funny. Is like, buy the good stuff, man.
Right. It's not like a shotgun.
You're breaking up. Well, now that we lost Mason, I guess we can move on to the next part of this. Jeffrey, you've been filming a vlog. It's not going to come out this Friday. It's going to come out next Friday. And it was, go ahead and talk about it. Since you did so much.
I haven't made maple syrup in a couple years. I forgot how long it takes. Like, you know how long it takes, but then you go to actually do it.
Oh.
He goes, the vlog is 16 hours long.
I filmed every second.
That's time
No
lapse.
cuts. So I went up to our deer camp, and I collected maple sap from the trees up there. I got 16 gallons, and that cooks down to about 1.5 quarts of maple syrup.
Also, I'm really glad you got that because we've gone and got nothing up there.
Yeah, depending on the time of the year. I learned something new. Depending on where on the tree you tap, I know that, like, trying to get over a good size, like, root that comes off is good because there's going to be flow through there. But apparently, depending on the time of the winter/spring, what side of the tree, like south is important sometimes, north is important sometimes, and I didn't know that, so that may have played a role in it. But the tree that I got the most out of this year, I was only off from our previous hole by what's the rule? It's like 2 inches over and then up down a certain amount. But it worked out great. As soon as I was tapping trees, I was already getting pop, 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 pop.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
What does that mean?
That's a sap dropping.
Oh, okay.
Going into the big buckets.
Oh, nice.
What, are they sugar maples?
I believe so. It's the same trees I tapped 2 years ago.
I mean, you don't have to. You don't have to tap sugar maples. You can tap.
Sugar maples have the most sugar in their sap. It's like 2%, which is why you need 40 gallons to make 1 gallon of.
That's crazy.
Of syrup.
That would be 20 by your math.
The other ones, huh?
Oh yeah, you're right.
It's somewhere above 2%. So that times 40 something gives you 100%. The other ones like silver maples, red maples. What's the other one? There's one other one. Gives you
black.
It's
I
like
think
1.5% or something like that. So there you need 50 or 60 gallons in order to get your 1 gallon of maple syrup. But it worked out really great. Went, tapped the trees, filmed a little bit of it, and then left, and then came back 4 days later, and I had a 5-gallon bucket full. One had 4 gallons, 2 of them had 4 gallons, and one had 3 gallons.
That is cool, man.
So
Good job.
That is pretty sweet.
Good job, dude.
It worked out great, and then I cooked up there what I could because I didn't want to come home with 16 gallons of sap just sloshing around in buckets.
And obviously,
it's not going to end well.
People are going to see this, but what is the cooking process like? You're just basically boiling it down. Right?
I went out and got a fryer, which is like a stand. You attach it to a propane tank.
Yep.
And then it's got it's a wide open tray, and then it came with the 2 fryers where you would put like fries in it.
Yeah.
But then I didn't use that, obviously. I just put the sap into that big container. It's important that it's wide open because the more surface area, the more you can evaporate off faster. But even with that, it still took 17 hours to get 16 gallons of sap down to 1 gallon of sap.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was quite a lengthy process.
Because you have to maintain a perfect temperature.
And you can't just like, oh, it's going. It'll be going for a while. Like it could, wind comes. It could blow your fire out. It could boil over. There's all sorts of things. So you have to watch it. You have to maintain the temperature.
Makes you wonder, how they sell maple syrup for so cheap. Although if you buy real maple syrup, it's not.
Yeah. Well, that maple syrup's corn syrup.
Yeah. Aunt Jemima.
Even the real stuff. So like I went and had a 5-gallon bucket attached to a tube that I plugged into a tree with a hole, basically. They do where they connect the trees with hoses, and then it all goes downhill into one central like vat where they're collecting like thousands of gallons.
I think that's what we used to have in our basement.
And then it goes on a truck into this big like facility where they have these huge things that just boil off.
Yeah.
It's so much sap.
That's interesting.
I made a YouTube video on that.
So it's like boiling down and you're refilling it back up.
Yep.
And then you just same process till you're done.
You just keep adding until you get down to next to nothing. And then once I got down to, it was probably about 2 gallons. Then I took it inside. House is a little dry in the winter anyways, so it's not like the end of the world. You don't want to boil off all of that in your house because now you've got 16 gallons worth of steam in your house and you're mold or something. I don't know.
Hep C.
So once I can fit it in one pot, I bring it inside. You got a more consistent heat source on the stove, and then you're right next to all of your clean implements for canning it and whatever else.
Nice.
So I took it, canned that was probably about 6 cups. And then I took the leftovers and made candy with it. And when you make candy with sugar, it's all about temperature. The syrup needs to be 219 degrees or 7 degrees above the boiling temperature of water. So it might be slightly different, but roughly 219. To make soft candy, you need to get it up to 245. So you're boiling it pretty good. You got to watch because it'll boil over once you get up past that, because it's got a lot of water in it when it's still sap. So when it's boiling, it can't really get that far above 212 because it would need to boil off the water before it can get above that. The water keeps it at that 212 degrees.
Like Earth.
Yeah. And then once you have enough water out, then it starts creeping up, and I got to 245. That makes soft candy, like a fudge or something kind of like that. And then if you take it up to 300, then you're making hard candy. So I took it out in bits, and I made 2 different kinds of candy. They say that you can drink the sap directly out of the tree because it's like super clear, and it's basically just water that came out of the tree. Interesting fact that I didn't know about is how it makes the sap during summer when it's collecting water and minerals from the ground and sunlight and doing its thing. It makes starch that it stores in the roots. And then during the wintertime, when it doesn't have access to that because it's frozen, the spring starts, the temperature starts coming up, and it takes that starch and starts converting it to sugar. And then that goes up and down the tree.
It's good, isn't it?
Oh my gosh.
Don't let him have any more.
This is the stuff I was talking about.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like fudge.
So this is what is this called?
It's maple soft candy.
So the beginning texture is like okay and kind of like powderizes.
Mm-hmm. It's like peanut butter fudge.
But then the back end flavor is where it's at. It's like after 3 seconds, something takes place.
So tastes like Golden Grams.
Someone at the Renaissance Festival who sells like jars of it. It is so good.
Both at $2.45.
Oh my gosh!
Both at $2.45 and at $300. It's like it'll take 4 or 5 minutes for you to get from the $2.19 to the $2.45, and then as soon as you hit like $2.42, $2.43, it's like, and it'll start going up quick. So you got to watch it. I think this one hit maybe like $2.48, $2.49.
New key, you let it melt.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the chocolate on Kit Kats, how if you let it melt, it's better.
We were just talking about that.
Yeah, no. Well, you got a bad batch.
Yeah, I did. It sucked.
Oh my gosh!
I bought the mini bag of
this soft candy. So people in our vlog will learn how to make this soft candy. Oh my gosh! You're welcome. You're welcome. Oh my gosh! Is that tasty?
Some of that crack rock.
Oh my gosh! Now I saw this how to make this in Breaking Bad,
but it was blue. Could you explain how you make it brown?
Jeffrey,
the glass might be
and this is from where so what's kind of special about this is what we're eating comes from where I shot my very first deer. And this was at Flat Top, right?
Yeah, I only made just what was left over of the syrup that didn't go into jars, so we could try it.
Oh,
what I think is nice about it is people don't think a lot about syrup, but to me the syrup is a lot like shooting a deer. Like, you can go to the store and buy meat, but if you shoot a deer and clean it and do it all yourself, it means more to you. You're more excited about when things turn out with it once you cook with it. And it's the same here. Like, all that effort went into boiling it down. I learned how to do the candy, put it all together.
I want to take a little piece for Lily because she was.
I didn't put any powdered sugar on the hard candy, so don't let it get warm because it'll stick together.
Oh my gosh, this is good.
I want to get more syrup now.
Makes you want to get into more syrup.
Yeah,
that's straight Golden Grams.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
good.
Which is funny that you wouldn't think that like there is a different flavor between the different things. Even the syrup tastes a little bit different than these things.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's very interesting.
I really, 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 really like it.
No.
I also like it because that's nature's candy. Like, there's no preserve. It's just the syrup, right?
It's straight water and sugar, and you boil it until the water goes away, and all you're
but
left
sugar
with is,
from the syrup.
All you're left with is the sugar.
It's that soft candy is the weirdest, coolest thing ever, but the hard candy is just tasty. Like, it's just good. Man,
what makes it soft? That's what I don't get.
So when
the temperature,
the hard candy,
but it goes from syrup to soft candy to hard candy.
Yeah. So with the hard candy, you cook it, and the more you cook it, the higher temperature you cook it at, the more, as it cools back down, the sugars crystallize and make crystalline structures, and the harder and more brittle it's going to be. With the soft candy, you cook it to 245, which is in between syrup and hard candy. But you let it cool back down to 180, so it starts making those crystals, and then you mix it for 5 minutes. So you're putting in air, you're breaking up some of the crystalline structure, so you end up with what's basically a spreadable, it's kind of like peanut butter, honestly.
Yeah.
And then you spread that, and then it hardens, recrystallising some, but you're breaking up some of the...
He's in there in whitey tighties, rubber boots, and like the full suit like Breaking Bad.
Come with me, and you'll be...
His wife comes in, he goes, I am the danger, Skyler.
He's got the ventilator on his mask.
So that will be vlog what number, Ryan? 10? 11? So that will be a vlog 11. Watch for it. We'll post it on our social media platforms, but you can find it on our YouTube channel and eventually on Carbon TV. But vlog 11, Jeff's maple syrup extravaganza.
It's the first one I did by myself, so if you watch it and comment, be nice.
Yeah. Well,
I feel like this one isn't very controversial. Though,
we post it. They go, you tree killing son of a...
302, not 300. You stupid son.
Vegans still get mad.
The candy was awesome. Mason was awesome until he did the Irish goodbye. But other than that, everything was pretty good. Thanks so much for tuning into the Greenway Outdoors podcast. You can find our main TV show, the Greenway Outdoors TV show. We're not just a podcast and a vlog on thehistorychannel.com, as well as Carbon TV, Roku, everything like that. We are going to have season 2 coming out later this year on the History Channel. We're filming it right now. Very excited to share it with you. but we want to interact with our audience every week through our video podcast and our vlog, which is why we create that content for you. So if there's something you'd like to see, we'd hope to hear from you so you can tell us what it is. Thanks so much for tuning in. Stay green.
Cheers.